introduction, welcome to Boring History for Sleep, where we explore the quiet, often uncomfortable truths of history without the rush. Tonight, we take a slow, somber journey through Tudor England, an era marked by both grandeur and misery. We will move beyond the glamorous court intrigues to uncover the harsh realities of life under the reigns of Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. As we begin this journey, imagine the bustling streets of Tudor London, crowded, noisy, and filled with a sense of both promise and peril. Life was far from easy for the common folk, and the palace halls were not always as luxurious as they seem. Through these 4 segments, we'll uncover the hidden truths of the Tudor era, taking you into the lives of ordinary people, royal figures, mystics, and the grand court itself. Settle in and let your mind gently drift as we explore the mysteries of the past. Moving at a steady pace, uncovering a history both polished and rough. Let the intrigue and discomfort of this era guide you into a peaceful sleep. Segment 1. Why it sucked to be a commoner in Tudor London. Imagine yourself walking through the misty, crowded streets of Tudor London. The chill of the early morning air nipping at your skin. The dampness of the cobblestones beneath your feet sinks into your shoes as you navigate the cluttered thoroughfares. The scent of smoke, animal waste, and the unmistakable tang of sweat and human suffering fills your nostrils. Above, the gray sky looms heavy, casting a shadow over the city of contrast, where wealth and power are locked away behind stone walls, while the common people struggle underfoot. For you, a commoner, life is a constant struggle. You are part of the ever-growing population of London, but you are a mere speck in the sprawling urban landscape. The city, while a hub of trade and opportunity for those in power, is anything but glamorous for the lower classes. It is a labyrinth of narrow alleyways, half-built houses, and overcrowded tenements. The noise of merchants shouting their wares blends with the clang of hammers and the cries of children, playing or perhaps begging in the streets. Every inch of space is occupied, and every surface is covered in grime. The conditions you live in are harsh. The streets are nothing more than open drains, carrying refuse from the homes and shops that line them. The smell of waste, both human and animal, permeates the air. For you, there is no escape from it. You live in cramped quarters, perhaps sharing a small room with several other families. There is little privacy and even less comfort. At night, the bed you sleep in might be nothing more than a thin layer of straw. Your shelter is fragile, prone to leaks, and in the winter, the cold is unbearable. Diseases such as the plague, smallpox, and tuberculosis sweep through the city regularly, taking lives with little warning. With no understanding of how diseases spread, the commoners are particularly vulnerable. The rich can afford the best medical treatment available, but you, being poor, up to fend for yourself. Your health is a fragile thing, and even a simple cold can spiral into something deadly. Food is scarce and often unvaried. Bread is a staple, but it is usually of poor quality, often made from rye or barley instead of the more expensive wheat. You may be able to afford a small piece of meat or fish now and then, but it's a luxury you can rarely indulge in. Vegetables, when available, are the same root vegetables, boiled and served with the simplest of seasonings. The aristocracy dines on rich meats, fruits, and spices from the far reaches of the world. But you are left to make do with whatever you can scrounge from the markets, if you can even afford to go. The work you do is hard and unrelenting. Perhaps you are a baker, a blacksmith, a tanner, or a laborer, toiling long hours with little reward. In Tudor London, the economy is thriving for the wealthy, but for the common folk, it is a daily grind with little hope of upward mobility. The ruling class barely acknowledges your existence, let alone your struggles. You are not invited to the lavish feasts of the nobility, nor do you partake in the fashionable attire of the court. The great families of London live in palatial homes, with servants to attend to their every need, while you scrape by on the meager earnings from your labor. There are few opportunities for advancement. The guilds, which could offer a path to higher status, are often closed off to those without connections. If you fall ill or become injured, whether from the dangerous work you do, or from the ever-present threat of disease, there is little to fall back on. No safety nets, no social programs, just the harsh reality of a life spent working until you can no longer work. The very fabric of Tudor society is built on a rigid hierarchy, and you, as a commoner, are at the bottom. You are largely invisible to the ruling class, treated with indifference at best and disdain at worst. The law, too, is weighted against you. The nobility are above the law in many ways, while commoners are held accountable for even the smallest transgressions. But amidst all this hardship, there are moments when you might catch a glimpse of something better. Perhaps you hear the soft notes of a minstrel-esque song drifting down from a tavern window, or the laughter of children playing in the street. These fleeting moments of joy are brief, but serve as a reminder that even in a life marked by struggle, there are small comforts to be found. For the most part, though, the reality of your existence in Tudor London is one of labor, poverty, and a constant fight to survive. Segment 2. The tumultuous life of Anne Boleyn. Now, let us shift our focus from the common streets of Tudor London to the glittering yet perilous world of the royal court. Picture yourself in the midst of the grandiose, opulent, halls of Henry VIII's court, where the walls are adorned with tapestries and the scent of perfume mixes with the rich aroma of roasted meats. But behind the lavish feasts and royal ceremonies lies the tragic story of Anne Boleyn, a woman whose life would be marked by both extraordinary rise and devastating fall. Anne Boleyn's rise to prominence began with her sharp intelligence, beauty, and charm, which caught the eye of none other than King Henry VIII. She was not born into the highest ranks of nobility, yet her ambition and grace allowed her to ascend quickly through the complex social structures of the English court. Anne's journey from a lady-in-waiting to the king's mistress and eventually his second wife is a tale that captivated the nation and became a defining chapter of Tudor history. Anne was unlike the other women in Henry's life. She was strong-willed, confident, and unafraid to speak her mind, qualities that, at times, made her both admired and resented by those around her. Henry's infatuation with Anne was intense, and it led to one of the most well-known episodes in English history, his break with the Catholic Church. This was the moment when Henry sought to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon in order to marry Anne. The resulting split from Rome would set the stage for the English Reformation, which forever changed the religious and political landscape of the country. For Anne, this period was both thrilling and terrifying. She was the object of Henry's obsession, but she was also acutely aware of the power dynamics at play. The stakes were high. If Anne could not provide Henry with a male heir, her position as queen would become untenable. After a tumultuous pregnancy and the birth of a daughter, Elizabeth, who would later become one of England's most famous monarchs, hold on Henry's affections began to wane. Henry's desire for a male heir consumed him, and Anne's failure to deliver one quickly led to her downfall. As the months passed, whispers spread through the court, rumors of infidelities and treason, and Anne's enemies, both within the court and among the nobles, began to close in. Her enemies used her inability to give Henry a son as ammunition against her. A plot was set in motion, and Anne was accused of adultery, incest, and plotting to murder the king. The charges, many of which were fabricated, were enough to bring Anne down. Her trial was a farce, her fate already sealed before she had a chance to defend herself. With her life hanging in the balance, Anne was found guilty and sentenced to death. The day of her execution arrived, and it was marked by a profound sense of both inevitability and sorrow. She was led to the scaffold, dressed in a dark gown, and, in a final act of dignity, faced the executioner without fear. The blade that fell on her neck ended her life, but it also sealed her legacy in history. Anne's death was a turning point in Henry's life. He would go on to marry 4 more times in a desperate quest for a male heir. But none of these marriages would bring him the happiness or the stability that he had once hoped for. Anne's daughter, Elizabeth, would go on to become one of the greatest rulers in English history, known for her wisdom, diplomacy, and strength of character. But for Anne, her life was marked by the fragility of power and the fleeting nature of royal favor. The court that once adored her would soon turn on her, and her rise to the throne would ultimately lead to her tragic demise. The story of Anne Boleyn is one of ambition, love, betrayal, and loss. Somber reminder of how quickly fortunes can change in the world of Tudor England. As you reflect on Anne's tumultuous life, imagine standing at the edge of the court, watching the grand ceremonies unfold. While in the shadows, political intrigue and personal vendettas determine the fates of those who walk within the palace walls. Anne Boleyn's story is a stark contrast to the life of the commoners, yet it is deeply intertwined with the fate of the Tudor dynasty, a reminder of the dangers of ambition and the precarious nature of power. Segment 3. The Voynich manuscript and Tudor mysticism. As we step further into the world of Tudor England, the whispers of mystery and the unknown seem to swirl around the very fabric of society. The Tudor court, with all its power and intrigue, was not just a place of political maneuvering, was also a hub for mysticism, alchemy, and the study of the arcane. Among the many strange relics of this time, few are as puzzling and enigmatic as the Voynich manuscript, a book that has baffled scholars, cryptographers, and historians for centuries. Picture yourself in the quiet corners of Tudor England, where alchemists and scholars pore over ancient texts and manuscripts, seeking knowledge that they believe can unlock the secrets of the universe. The mystical arts were not just the stuff of fantasy in this time. They were deeply intertwined with the everyday life of the court. Kings, queens, and courtiers alike were fascinated by astrology, alchemy, and the idea that hidden knowledge could be found in symbols, stars, and ancient texts. The Voynich manuscript, which dates back to the early 15th century, appears to be one such text. It is a book filled with strange, unknown symbols, mysterious illustrations of plants, astrological charts, and bizarre figures, yet no one has ever been able to decipher its meaning. The manuscript's origin remains a mystery. It was likely created by an unknown author, but the purpose of the book remains elusive. Some historians believe it may have been written by an alchemist or a scholar attempting to document secret knowledge. Others suggest it could be a hoax, a book designed to confuse and intrigue those who stumbled upon it. In Tudor England, the pursuit of knowledge, particularly knowledge related to the supernatural, was a powerful force. Mysticism was deeply rooted in the culture, and the court often sought the counsel of astrologers and alchemists. Queen Elizabeth I, for example, had a personal astrologer named John Dee, a man who dabbled in both mathematics and the occult. Dee's fascination with the stars, combined with his knowledge of alchemy and the mystical arts, placed him at the very heart of Tudor mysticism. He was not alone in his interest. Many members of the court shared his belief in the supernatural, and the Tudor rulers themselves were heavily influenced by astrological predictions and omens. The Voynich manuscript, though it was likely not directly connected to the Tudor court, reflects the broader mystical atmosphere of the time. Its cryptic nature mirrors the fascination of the era with hidden knowledge and secrets. Scholars in Tudor England often believed that certain mysteries, when unlocked, could lead to unimaginable power or enlightenment. Alchemists, in particular, sought the Philosopher's Stone, a mythical substance that could turn base metals into gold and grant eternal life. The pursuit of such knowledge was not only a personal quest, but a political one, as those who held power over such secrets were often seen as having the upper hand in both the spiritual and material worlds. While the Voynich manuscript itself may not have been directly involved in the political intrigues of the Tudor court, it represents the type of mysticism and arcane knowledge that fascinated so many during the period. Imagine walking through the shadowy halls of a Tudor palace, where secret meetings are held in candlelit chambers and the pages of mysterious texts are studied with a sense of urgency. The manuscript, though hidden away in distant libraries, would have been of great interest to those in search of answers to the mysteries of the universe. As you reflect on the allure of the unknown, consider the ways in which Tudor society sought to control and understand the supernatural. The mysticism of the era was not simply a matter of superstition. It was a way of navigating the world, a means of understanding the forces that governed life and death, fortune and misfortune. The secrets held in texts like the Voynich manuscript were thought to possess the keys to power, whether in the form of wealth, health, or knowledge of the divine. In this way, Tudor mysticism is not just about the arcane. It is deeply tied to the aspirations and fears of those who lived in this tumultuous time. It was a period in which the boundaries between the known and the unknown were constantly shifting, and the pursuit of secret knowledge was a driving force in both personal and political life. The fascination with strange manuscripts, astrological charts, and alchemical experiments was not just an academic pursuit. It was a reflection of the desire to control the mysteries of the world. Segment 4. Inside Hampton Court. Feasts, fashion, and political chess now. We take you inside one of the most iconic and extravagant settings of the Tudor period, Hampton Court Palace. Picture yourself entering the Grand Hall, where the sounds of laughter and music fill the air, mingling with the clink of fine china and the faint scent of roasted meats and wine. Hampton Court was more than just a royal residence. It was a stage upon which the drama of Tudor politics, courtly life, and dynastic power played out. Here, power was not only wielded through politics, but through lavish feasts, intricate fashions, and the subtle games of political chess. The palace itself is a maze of opulent rooms, richly decorated with tapestries, paintings, and gilded furniture. The walls are adorned with the finest tapestries depicting scenes from mythology and history, and the floors are covered with the most luxurious carpets. As you walk through the halls, imagine the glittering chandeliers overhead, casting their golden light across the stone walls, while courtiers dressed in the finest fabric silks, velvets, and furs move gracefully, their conversation carrying the weight of ambition and intrigue. The court of Henry VIII was a place where food, fashion, and political maneuvering intertwined seamlessly. Feasts were not merely about satisfying hunger, they were about displaying power, wealth, and influence. The king, in his grandeur, would sit at the head of the table, surrounded by his courtiers, while servants and entertainers ensured that the festivities never paused. Imagine the long tables laden with roasted meats, fine wines, delicate pastries, and exotic fruits, all designed to impress and demonstrate the king's ability to command the finest goods from across Europe and beyond. The feasts at Hampton Court were more than just opportunities for indulgence. They were also critical moments in the political landscape of the Tudor court. As you sit among the courtiers, you would notice how the conversations and alliances formed around the banquet table were just as important as the food itself. The court was a place of constant competition, where favors were won or lost based on the subtle shifts of power. A well-timed compliment or a strategic marriage could change the course of one's life, while a misstep or a poorly executed gesture could lead to ruin. In these feasts, fashion played a critical role as well. The clothes worn by the courtiers were not just a reflection of personal taste. They were powerful symbols of status and ambition. Henry VIII, known for his extravagant displays of wealth, often wore the most luxurious fabrics, adorned with gold and jewels, reflecting both his power and his desire to maintain his authority. His court was filled with individuals who sought to mirror his opulence, donning the latest styles from Italy, France, and the Low Countries. The finer the garment, the greater the prestige, and the more likely one was to catch the king's eye. However, beneath the surface of these grand affairs, a far more dangerous game of political chess was constantly being played. At Hampton Court, the game of power was not confined to the battlefield or the council chambers. It was a game of alliances, betrayals, and power plays that took place with every glance, every conversation, and every calculated move. As you sit in the shadows, observing the interactions around you, you begin to see how each figure in the court is playing their own part, maneuvering carefully to secure their position. The court is a place of shifting loyalties and ever-changing allegiances, where the slightest misstep could lead to disgrace or even death. The monarch's decisions, often made in private, were influenced by these interactions. The grandeur of the feasts and the displays of wealth and power at Hampton Court were not just for shows, they were tools in the king's arsenal, used to maintain control over his court and subjects. And while Henry VIII's larger-than-life personality and appetites were evident in every corner of the palace, the real work of governance and manipulation occurred behind closed doors. As we move through the grand halls, we cannot ignore the political tensions that shaped every event. The court was a dangerous place, filled with individuals vying for favor and position, ready to sacrifice any one friend or fief. It meant securing their place in the hierarchy. The most prestigious position, of course, was that of the king's trusted advisor. But even those who held such positions were never immune to the whims of the monarch. Power at Hampton Court, just like in the rest of Tudor England, was fragile, and it was always subject to change. The feasts and fashions of Hampton Court were symbols of the monarchy's power, but they also served as a reminder of the precariousness of that power. Beneath the laughter and the celebration, the game of political chess continued, and no one, no matter their title or status, was ever truly safe. The rise and fall of courtiers, the alliances forged in secret, and the betrayals that unfolded behind closed doors were just as much a part of Tudor England as the splendid feasts and fashionable gowns. Imagine yourself at one of these grand banquets, surrounded by the whispers of power and ambition, where every word spoken and every gesture made holds the potential to shift the course of history. It is a moment suspended in time, where the luxury of the palace collides with the brutal realities of the Tudor court, and where the true nature of power is revealed in the most subtle and dangerous ways. Conclusion: as we step away from the lavish feasts and intricate political games of the Tudor court, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. The story of Tudor England is one of contradictions, grandeur and squalor, power and fragility, ambition and tragedy. From the struggles of commoners on the streets of London to the dark intrigue of the royal court, the Tudor era was marked by both opulence and hardship. Though the feasts at Hampton Court were a symbol of wealth and power, they also reflected the fragile nature of the monarchy. The lives of individuals like Anne Boleyn remind us that the pursuit of power could come at a steep price, and the shadows of political maneuvering were ever present in the halls of the palace. Now, as we leave the past behind, let your mind drift into peaceful reflection. knowing that the stories of Tudor England, with all their complexity and drama, are part of the rich tapestry, the intrigues, the feasts, and the fates of those who lived in this time may have faded with the years, but their legacies remain, and the echoes of their lives continue to shape our understanding of the past. Let the whispers of the Tudor court fade away as you slip into restful sleep, the weight of history gently lifting from your shoulders. Sweet dreams and good night.